Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Suikoden 5 and the bonus content. We are heading into the Armis Greeting Cooperative attack, which is 1.2 times damage to one enemy. I will splice in the remaining cooperative attacks after this one completes. Maybe if I get maybe after a little commentary, we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and see what this one can do against a raging assassin. Everyone else can just defend. That is an odd little wind-up to that toss. Alright, I think I'm going to be doing these in alphabetical order, so the next one should be Aerostorm. Next up we have Aerostorm with Isato and Urda. 0.7 times damage to all enemies. Of course, we only have one enemy, so it's not going to be as interesting, but let's see what it does. Not all that impressive. Then again, it would hit everyone. Next up, we've got Azure Charge, 0.9 times damage to row of enemies with Rahal and Flail. Not a whole lot of damage there. Next up, we've got the Beast Tamer. Cooperative attack, 1.2 times damage to column of enemies with Ernst and Norma. She phased right through it! I didn't know you could ride a cat like that. Next up, we've got the Beaver Rush, and you can tell that Maroon is in the party because of the altered background music. So, of course, the Beaver Rush has Maroon, Maroon, Miroon, Moroon, and Maroon. Instant death or 1.2 times damage to one enemy. You can see him kind of rocking out there. Oh, hey, instant death. It's actually kind of a shame that he doesn't change the victory music there. Next up, we've got Brotherly Love, 1 times damage to cluster of enemies with Phalon and Phalen.
Here we go. Off you.
Oh, God. Yeah, no wonder Phelan isn't happy about having the brother she has. Next up, we've got Case Closed with Shigure and Sagiri, which is 1.2 times damage to one enemy. You would think that this would make more sense with Kid from Suikoden 3. Ah, well, what are you gonna do?
What a pain.
It's pretty good damage. Next up, we've got Conceit, 1.3 times damage to one enemy, with Isabel Cathari and Zarase. That was an odd look. That was great. Then again, anything with Zarase is great. Next up, we've got the Cooperative Attack Crowd Favorites, 1.3 times damage to one enemy with Zagai, Shun, and Belkut. That's also not too bad. Next up, we've got Dad and Daughter. 1 times damage to row of enemies with Log and Lun. Not too bad damage, actually. Next up, we've got the Do-Re-Mi cooperative attack with Re-Mi-Fa, Mi-Fa-So, Fa-So-La, So-La-Ti, and La-Ti-Do. Which is actually 0.5 times damage to all enemies. Let's see how this goes. I was hoping for something a little cuter. You know, like the dog attack in Suikoden 3. Next up, we've got Dragon Cavalry. 0.6 times damage to all enemies. Nick, Rug, and Rahal. Wow, all of them got unbalanced. Next up, we've got Endless Blows with Gauche and Yar.
How was that? Yeah, and never come back.
That is not the voice I expected him to have. I've never really used him. That is definitely not the voice I expected him to have. Next up, we've got Felena's Finest. At least 0.2 times damage to all enemies with Ald, Georg, Galleon, Leon, Kyle, and Miyakis. I don't think we're getting anything valuable out of their corpses. Next up, we've got the family attack with Kisara, Log, and Lun. They still have some of the weirdest weapons in the game. Next up, we've got Fancy Lad. 1.4 times damage to one enemy. Apparently, they're going to whip out some Fallout snacks. With Matthias, Rahal, and Din. That was actually kind of impressive. Next up, we've got Fate. Cooperative attack with Georg, Lorelei, Kylie, and Vicky. Huh. What do these four all have in common? Oh, I'm sure it's nothing. That was good. So basically, Lorelei and Kylie are talking. Vicky sneezes and teleports them. Georg's about to attack the enemy, and they land on him. That's great. Next up, we've got Flash of Steel with Georg and Kyle. 1.2 times damage to one enemy. I didn't actually see how much damage that did. Next up is Friends Forever with Rue, Grahal, and Miyakis, 1.3 times damage to one enemy.
Now it's my turn.
I was not actually expecting her to say the exact same thing. Next up, we've got Fugitive Hunt, 1 times damage to one enemy with Raven, Shigure, and Sagiri.
What a pain.
That was quite a bit of damage. And Raven has a really, really weird laugh. Next up, we've got the Cooperative Attack Island Storm, 1.3 times damage to one enemy, with Yar, Nellis, and Bernadette. I didn't actually expect him to land and then make the attack. I kind of thought he was going to bring the weapons down as he was coming down. Huh. Weird. Kind of like it, though. I mean, it's nice to see 3 Island Nations people all attacking. Next up, we have Kiss Goodbye with Jean, Nellis, and Ceolides. 0.5 times damage to all enemies.
Never underestimate me.
Next we have Kiss Goodnight, which is 0.5 times damage to all enemies with Charmista, Jean, and Nellis. I believe it's functionally the same as Kiss Goodbye, which has Jean, Nellis, and Ceolides. So let's see that against a Raging Assassin. That is a lot of hearts. Oh, and it puts them to sleep, too. I had no idea. Next up, we've got Lockdown with Kias and Lele. 1.2 times damage to one enemy.
We did it!
No, it didn't die. You didn't quite do it. As you can tell by the music, we've got another combo attack with Maroon. Looks can kill with Bergen, Axe, and Maroon. 0.5 times damage to all enemies. I definitely would not be able to take this music for very long. Wow, it put Fury status on all the enemies. Next up, we've got the Maximilian combo with Isabel and Matthias. 1.5 times damage to one enemy. Pretty good damage. Next up, we've got Maze of Steel, 0.4 times damage to all enemies, with Galleon, Georg, Kyle, and Miyakis. That was a very odd last shot. And you know, looking at Galleon just made me realize that this is, I think, the only Suikoden game without shields. All the other ones have a shield slot, this one does not. I don't know why it took me so long to pick up on that. And normally, at this point, we'd have Chaos Shields, which would be the best shield in the game, or maybe it was Earth Shields. I can't remember. Either way, it's just kind of weird. Next up, we've got Oops with Vicky and Geno. Ow. That was great. I love that one. Next up, we've got Perfect Likeness with Ald and Roy. At least 1.2 times damage to one enemy. I imagine that this is altered by some sort of hidden relationship number with Roy, but I don't know. It might be modified by the one with Leon. Not sure. Let's try it out.
Here we go.
That is very, very synchronized. And now Roy is pissed off. Next up, we've got Petty Rivals with Subala and Lun. 1.2 times damage to one enemy. That was great. I love that one. Next up, we've got the Pretty Boy combo attack with Roy, Mick, and Richard. 0.5 times damage to all enemies.
Yeah! Here we go. Now me too.
You can really see that late-game cooperative attacks just don't really hold up. Next up, we've got the Pretty Girl attack. 0.5 times damage to all enemies with Norma, Phelan, and Vicky. Aw, Vicky sneezed that heart right into the saber fang. Alright, that's just weird. Next up, we've got Pride of Magic with Zarase and Levi. 100 basic damage to all enemies. And this reminds me, it really feels like as the games go on, the combo attacks get less and less good. I mean, the first game, they were awesome. Especially with the hero and I forget his name right now, but the guy who trained him in staff fighting, and they had that one combo that's like 1 times damage to all enemies with 2 very powerful physical fighters. That's pretty good. This 100 basic damage, I believe this is essentially a 100 magic, non-elemental magic damage attack. So for these 2 characters, that should be pretty powerful. But let's actually see. It's just a lightning and a fire attack. Oh, and then wind? So, I mean, 100 basic damage translates into 447. That's not too bad, but that's essentially because they're such powerful magic users. Next up is Royal Power with Ald and Sealies, of course. At least 0.5 times damage to all enemies. Next up, we've got Sacred Greenhorn with Gavaya and Nikia. 1.2 times damage to one enemy. Not too bad damage. Next up, we've got Scarlet Charge, 1.2 times damage to column of enemies, with Rogue and Lance. Looks like that dragon's gonna get a slow attack to start with. So slow. Quite a bit more damage. Next up, we've got Secret Crush with Flail, Mirun, and Byakuren. 0.5 times damage to all enemies. That's very strange. And interesting that it mutes. I did not realize that. Kinda surprised it doesn't say anything about that. Next up, we've got Shining Scalp with Alhazred, Isato, and Wabon. 0.5 times damage to all enemies. It even blinds them. Oh, I should have expected that. Next up, we've got Shoot and Smash with Sorensen and Lu. 1.2 times damage to one enemy. That crossbow really feels like it should not work. Next up, we've got Sindar Surge. 0.6 times damage to all enemies. Where is he getting those daggers?
Waste of time.
Man, Kylie and Lorelei really don't like each other. Next up, we have one of the harder cooperative attacks to trigger, Speak with Fists, with Shun and Nikia, 1.2 times damage to one enemy. The reason why it's hard to trigger is that Shun must be in Fury mode. You get that with the level 1 shield spell. Unfortunately, I had to go through 3 rounds trying to get him Fury. I suppose there are some other things that you could do to get Fury, but that was the quickest way that I could think of to get it. So this is a much harder ability to, or combo attack to trigger. So let's go ahead and see what it does. Yeah, I took 3 people with the shield rune, and it took 3 rounds to get Fury on him. But you said you were speaking with fists, not feet.
Not bad.
Not bad yourself.
Interesting. Not worth it, though. I mean, in order to get Fury on him, and it... Oh, no, it just ran out on Nikia, not on him. Still, that feels not worthwhile even trying to get. I was wondering why I couldn't get it to trigger, because I could see it in the menu as an available combo attack, but he was always grayed out. I had to go look it up and see exactly what required to trigger it. Next up, we've got Stampede. 0.7 times damage to all enemies with Flail, Lance, and Axe. Not exactly a stampede there, guys. I'm calling false advertising. Next up, we've got Swordmaster with Din and Belkut. 1 times damage to column of enemies. Nothing really much to say about that one. Next up, we've got Sword Sage. 1 times damage to column of enemies with Richard and Hazuki. Seems like slow motion for them. I'm not sure if that was just 634 or if that was 1634. I think that might have just been 634. Which really goes to show you that they're a lot better without the cooperative attacks. Next up, we've got Sworn Protector with Leon. At least 1.2 times damage to one enemy.
Here we go. Wins.
Stays pretty good damage throughout the game. Next up, we've got Sworn Protector with Ald and Miyakis.
Now it's my turn. Crit.
Next up, we've got Teen Rebellion. 1.3 times damage to one enemy with Shun, Lu, and Phelan.
Yay!
That was actually pretty good damage. Next up, we've got Tunnelin' Through. 1.3 times damage to one enemy with Bergen, Gunday, and Wabon, the 3 dwarves. Actually, not too bad damage. Next up, we've got Violet Charge, 0.8 times damage to all enemies with Nick and Axe. Be nice if they went faster. You guys are color coordinated. As a final bonus to the combos, let's check out some of the combo spells. This one, the Unite Magic of the Flowing Rune and the Cyclone Rune, which Levi has, is Water Dragon. So let's go ahead and see what that does. Have everyone else defend. Basically did what it said on the tin. Next up, the Flowing and the Thunder Rune combined to create the Thunder God spell. Let's see how that does. Pretty good. Next up, we've got the Unite Magic Scorched Earth with the Mother Earth Rune and the Rage Rune, this time using Vicky. See how that goes. Probably because that guy resists fire, I imagine. Next up, we've got the Unite Magic Flame Array. This time with the Rage Rune and the Thunder Rune, which Jean has. So much nicer when the more powerful spellcasters cast it. Next up, we've got Fierce Wind Fangs, which is the Mother Earth rune, and the Cyclone rune, which Bernadette has. Pretty impressive damage there. Next up, let's view the Unite Magic creation with the Dawn Rune and the Twilight Rune. Leon. Which is 1500 damage to all foes, fully heals all allies. Pretty nice damage. Now let's show off a few of the other minor runes that we really haven't seen that much of through the game. Let's start with the Do-Re-Mi rune, which you do need the Do-Re-Mi elves in the current party. They can't be in the entourage in order for these to work. Let's start with Serenade. Very odd spell. Didn't actually end up doing anything. Let's check out March. Fury and Alert, 50% chance to all allies. Need 3 Do-Re-Mi elves. Actually, that's pretty good that it did, in fact, work on everyone. I mean, that's 50% chance, it says, whereas the Shield rune has 40% chance, and it maybe affects 1 or 2 people most of the time. I wonder if that's a 50% chance that it'll affect everyone, and if you fail, it affects no one. Might be the case. Let's see. It's not very clear there, but let's go with Concerto. 1500 plus damage to all foes. See how that goes. That was pretty good damage, actually. I'm actually quite impressed. Next up, let's check out the Condemnation rune, which is the child of the Rune of Punishment from Suikoden 4. Start with Black Shiver, which is, I should read that off, 100 plus damage to one enemy, 10 plus damage to user. That's a very different icon, though. That's pretty good damage there. I mean, it said 100 plus damage, and it dealt 400. Part of that is the enemy's magic defense, and of course part of that is Alhazred's magic stat. Next up, Endless Ordeal, 300 plus damage to one enemy, 50 plus damage to user. I did not actually know that it stunned. It could stun the foe too. That's actually really good. Then Inevitable Blade, 300 plus damage to all enemies, 100 plus damage to user. So that one was also good. You should be able to reduce the damage that you take by increasing your magic defense, although that might not work with this one. I know it works with the Pale Gate Rune. Next up, or finally, is Dark Summoning. Causes instant death to one foe, 80% chance, and user, 10% chance. I do know that if neither of those work, or if one of them doesn't work, it deals damage. So things aren't going to get off scot-free. Yeah, so it didn't work, but it dealt a lot of damage. Next up, let's check out the Resurrection Rune that Bernadette currently has. Start out with Scolding, 50 plus damage to one enemy, and as I said and used earlier, this ability causes holy damage, so it is especially effective against undead. And really, that's about the only time that it's actually effective. Let's just go ahead and attack with these two. So, even though it says 50 plus, it dealt 354, so that's pretty good as a level 1 ability. Unfortunately, it does only hit one enemy. Next up, we've got Yell, raises one ally from unconsciousness, which I don't think I can actually use, but we'll try it. We'll see if it'll just, like, miss or something. Yeah, it just didn't do anything, but we got to see the animation. I don't know if it raises them with full hit points or not. Next up, we've got Charm Arrow, 300 plus damage to all enemies. So pretty good, about twice what it said. And then Scream restores 300 hit points to all allies. Unfortunately, one of our elves has gone down. So, it's a decent healing and attack rune. Much more so when you're facing undead, though. And it is one of the few things that can bring unconscious characters back to life. The Flowing Rune and, of course, the Dawn Rune can both also do that. And even though I showed it off during the game, I thought I'd show off the Pale Gate Rune again. Start with Open Gate, 100 plus damage or instant death to cluster of foes. Oh, those are the same centaurs that we were fighting. Huh, okay. They're a lot smaller in this game. Royal Passage, 350 plus damage to one enemy. Some kind of turtle. Then Pale Palace, 600 plus damage to all enemies. Summons a very spastic water dragon, which is a lot smaller than the one in Suikoden 3. That was a really big water dragon in that game, because we actually got to fight it, which was pretty cool. Oops. And finally, Empty World. 900 plus damage to all enemies. Allies damaged 2. Don't kill it. Good.
The fruit of all my research.
The fruit of all your research was killing things with the Pale Gate rune? Well, fair enough. The last rune that we're going to go through is a Twilight rune. We got it so late in the game that we didn't really get to look at everything. Let's start out with Evening Dusk. Causes all enemies to sleep, 20% chance. Did not work. Let's check out Setting Sun, 300 plus damage or instant death, 70% chance to one enemy. Well, that's gotta be painful. Instant death. Alright, we'll be back in a moment to check out the rest. Alright, let's check out the rest of the Twilight rune magic. Silent Afterglow, 600 plus damage to row of enemies. And then we'll check out the last one. Vermilion Sky, 1300 plus damage to all enemies. Oh, lots of little suns drop on them. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, and then a big one at the end. Well, since he's still up, let's actually end it with the Dawn runes, Crimson Sky, 1200 plus damage to all enemies. I don't like that one as much. Alright, there's one last thing to show off. I do want to make a mention that I was thinking about trying to get everyone's final battle conversations, but considering how long it just took me to do all of the Unite attacks, I think I'm going to pass. I mean, each individual Unite attack itself did not take a whole lot of time, but setting it all up did end up taking a lot of time. So probably multiply the video time by 6, and you probably have about what it actually took me to do all of this. But there's one last thing to do. And partly it's because I had to move around saves and everything like that. One last thing to do. We've got one last bath scene that we did not get earlier, because when I went through them all, we did not have Leon.
A simple bath can do wonders. Care to take one?
Let's go to the... should probably double check. Looks like it's the indoor bath.
Very good. Now, do relax and enjoy your bath.
Crisis of epic proportions.
Hey, Leon, how long has it been since the last time we both took a bath together? Way too long. Let's take a look at that wound. Come on, don't be shy. Well, if you insist...
Ald is a silent protagonist. Hi, ladies.
Oh, Prince, how's it going? You want to join us? Huh? Now, of course, this is the women's bath. Technically, you're not supposed to be here. But then again, I'm sure they'll make an exception for royalty. Don't you think, Leon? Yeah, Keese, that's Roy. What? What the hell are you talking about, Leon? I'm not... The hell? I mean, what nonsense you speak of,
Staring at Roy.
Roy, you said you weren't going to do this anymore. You broke your promise, didn't you? No, wait, I was worried about your wound, and He answered to Roy, Leon. Well, like I said, men aren't allowed in here. But if you say weren't a man anymore... Whoa, where are you going with this? You wouldn't! Oh, relax, it'll all be over before you know it. I cut things all the time. This'll be easy. No! I'm sorry, please forgive me! Sorry's not gonna cut it. You think you can escape a Queen's Night? Coward, get back here! Ah! She's not gonna live this down for a while. She was so red.
Ah, good times. Alright, and that is it for the bonus content. I hope you enjoyed it all. I hope you enjoyed Suikoden 5, and based on the view counts, you all did. I hope you stay around for the next Let's Plays. See you then, everyone.